How you doing, Anthony?
How you doing?
Go ahead.
Good to see you, Mike.
John?
Good afternoon.
You sound so chipper.
Yeah. All right, we have a quorum. Let's go. I have a pretty hard stop at 6:30.
Oh, okay. That's great.
Bill's not going to be here.
Okay.
Amy's not going to be here. I'm expecting Lori, but she's not here yet. So
Okay, you got it.
we have a quorum, so let's do it.
There's a big traffic jam on 95 south coming here.
Well, it's a day that ends in Y.
Exactly.
All right, then, I'll call the meeting to order. This is the Town of Old Lyme Affordable Housing Commission regular meeting, Wednesday, August 17th. It is 5:04 p.m. And in attendance, we have Karen Winters, Anthony Vasilio, myself, Michael Fogliano, and by phone, John Coughlin, which constitutes a quorum, and we can move forward with the agenda. First item of which is public comment. There's no one here in the meeting hall. If there's anyone on the phone line that wishes to offer public comment, please do so. Hearing none, we'll move to approval of minutes for the July 20th, 2022 regular meeting. For discussion purposes, I'll look for a motion to approve. Karen moved to, second by John. Any discussion? John? John, any discussion on the minutes?
No.
Okay. We have been joined by Lori.
You have perfect timing. Oh, good.
We're just getting through the housekeeping part. So, with no discussion, since we're hybrid, I'll do a roll call on this one. John?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I will add yes, so it is unanimous. Okay. Which brings us
Hey,
to...
Mike, it's Jen, just to let you know I joined.
Hey, Jen, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
So for the minutes, we have Jen Miller joined by telephones. Okay, we just got through the housekeeping, and we're going to start on the updates. So the first item is the Mcculloch Family Open Space Affordable Housing Option. And where we left it last month is that we had approved sending a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to convene a building committee based on positive results from initial discussions and the good news that we had secured the $150,000 ARPA grant that could be applied to the costs of planning and site work and construction. I had forwarded all of you, and you have in your packets, the initial message that was sent to the Board of Selectmen that was copied to the chairs of the Open Space Commission. Subsequently received a response from the Open Space Commission, and it was a fairly long response, but my interpretation is that the crux of it is that they are not in favor of our proposal because they are looking to have the $100,000 purchase price of the two building envelopes restored to the Open Space Acquisition Fund on day one. So I'm interpreting that as they essentially see this as selling the envelopes back to the town.
Did we get a response from the Board of Selectmen?
We have not. And I haven't reached out because our meeting was close enough, so I wanted to go another lap with just us before I reached out to Tim. There you have it. And I didn't see any specific pushback on overall construct of leasing, having the town retain ownership of the land and leasing it. It seemed to boil down to the timing of the restoration of the purchase price of the envelopes, which seems to be expected in a lump sum on day one. So I think that's going to bear further discussion because if the town retains ownership of the land, then it's owned by the taxpayers. So any restoration of the original purchase price to the Open Space Acquisition Fund would essentially be an intra-town budget transfer, not require any new revenue. So we're going to have to take that up. I can say that since, actually we've been trying to get some more in-depth discussion with the Planning Commission, with the Open Space Commission, to try and hammer out more details of this proposal. Since before the holidays in 2021, it's been very difficult to get everyone together. Despite repeated attempts to get some of the key stakeholders together on an ad hoc basis and to get the report for the site testing that was about a year ago now.
Right. It's not.
It was actually October, yeah.
Yeah.
That should be available within 30 days. So
should be. So my take is that this approach of trying to have an ad hoc discussion among the stakeholders has really run its course, and my recommendation is that we double down on requesting that the Board of Selectmen convene a building committee that's specifically charged to move this project forward.
I don't disagree with that.
Correct.
What I see is that if we don't have these little quirky things worked out with open space, then I feel like we're giving them a hot potato, whoever this.
We would be part of it, and I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Karen. But they would be charged with doing it. It would no longer be ad hoc, and it would be under the direction of the Board of Selectmen.
I don't disagree with that, but what I'm saying is that, so how long will it take them to get the group together, get their ducks in a row, and then address it? And now we're just, 3 or 4 months further down the road to our ticking line.
Do you see a third? So
I feel like maybe we need to ask the selectmen to give us a response on that before, as part of the charge perhaps to the building committee.
So include that in the guidance to the committee?
Right, a resolution that this is their take on it.
I like that.
So that
we'd like the results to see if they're building lots, actually. Like, there's no piece of paper we can put our fingers on or email that says it passed Ledgelight and it's a building lot. So, I mean...
And if it's conflictual with open space, I'm sorry, John, I don't mean to interrupt, then at that point, the Board of Selectmen have already made their decision as part of this.
Good. Okay. So that could take the form of a follow-up?
Yeah.
Communication with the Board of Selectmen and just say the Affordable Housing Commission agrees that it's now even more important to convene the building committee and for the Board of Selectmen to prioritize this and provide guidance on
as part of it.
As part.
Is there so there is no local development authority, no LDA in the city? Is there precedent for forming up temporary building committees other than for stuff?
This hasn't been done since the 90s.
We're sitting.
90s, okay.
Yeah, we're sitting in the results of a temporary building committee.
Okay. So
I mean, the long and the short of it is we've got to sit there. We need two things from the Board of Selectmen. One is get open space to give you the results of the test because it's a piece of town property. They're a committee. Hey guys, get us that. And then number two is if that's affirmative, they're building lots and they're okay to move forward. Let's create a building committee. I think that's kind of the thing you need to send to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep, and to Karen's point, with guidance on how to resolve this internal transfer of the funding.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, yeah. Because they did cite they cited, oh gosh, I have to find it. She cited something in her email, basically, there was something about where they got the money from, and that's going to be...
as we've discussed, it's all town money. It's all the town.
I know, but but it's what bucket it came out of. So,
Right.
so the people that'll have to make the decision if it can go and is going to be the selectmen. We're not us.
Well, and also like.
And the Board of Finance is going to have something to say about that, too.
Correct.
A little bit.
John, don't forget too that the open space.
A little bit.
I'm not implying this is not good funds, but they have a line item every year for their allocation of funds for purchases of other properties. So.
Correct.
I mean, those things need to be taken into consideration. And they need to put their stamp on it and point us in the right direction instead of us floundering and wondering and trying. And, Michael's trying his best to try to navigate this, but I feel like it comes to the point that there's a parent that needs to be involved and make a decision.
Yeah,
No, that's exactly it. Yes, 100%.
reached the limit of our
Patience.
authority and influence.
Yeah.
And the clock is ticking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Motivated by what a great opportunity this is to break a 20-year drought and build a new affordable housing.
It's
And
not a-
what a crime it would be if we weren't able to pull this off.
Yeah.
Gosh.
I don't
Yeah.
think a major decision. It's just someone said a parental grown-up decision. I mean, you need clarity in the legislative body. The town has to solve it. That's their jurisdiction.
The Board of Selectmen is the executives, and
Yeah.
it's time for the executives to
Make a decision, and everyone falls in line.
Exactly. 100%.
You guys are good with that?
I'm very good.
Okay, so
Yep.
we'll go
I
back
am
to
100%.
double down on getting the Board of Selectmen to
Yep.
take the reins here.
I would.
Okay,
Great.
thank you. Thank you for your patience with us. It's we'll hang in. We'll get this. We have to. Okay. So you're good with me writing a memo to that effect and send it to Tim and the board? Good. We'll do. Okay, 4.2, Regional Housing Plan. So once again, copied to you on the communication to RiverCog and the response from Megan at RiverCog. And basically the most important item on there was our concern about the formation of an extra statutory authority and what that would mean. And Megan's response, just to encapsulate it, basically said that it was all going to be an opt-in at some point in the future and was not baked into the plan. And actually, the plan did get adopted at the council meeting in July, and the plan as adopted is there. And I gave it a quick look, and yeah, none of those items that we were concerned about has been established as part of phase one of the Regional Housing Commission, but it is there for subsequent phases as subject to further discussion and approval by the member towns. So any questions or discussion on that?
Super clear to me, so no.
Okay. Moving right along. Accessory apartment regulations. So the history on this one is in the 2021 legislative session, Public Act 2129 was passed, and part of that was a set of regulations regarding accessory dwelling units that basically established them as of right statewide as a state mandate. But there was an option for towns to, and those regulations would, as of January 2023, supersede any local zoning regulations regarding accessory dwelling units. There was an opt-out provision in that part of the legislation. The town, for multiple reasons, and some good reasons, opted out. And the initial conversations with the zoning board said they were going to opt out, but they were prepared to entertain relaxing regulations on accessory dwelling units. And Old Lyme has some highly restrictive regulations. I mean, coming out of the gate, ADUs are only permissible by special permit in the RU80 and RU40 zones and not permitted in any of the other ones.
Yeah.
So subsequent to that, had some discussions with Paul Arzell and Dan Beret, the land use officer, who has since left. And I think I don't know if the new person is on board yet, but there'll be a new land use officer coming into the town hall. Also with Torrance Downs from Rivercog, who has some experience in this area, and had a look at the regulations, and Dan provided some input on areas that he thought would be flexible. Paul mostly listened, as zoning sees themselves, I think, primarily as the adjudicator in this and not necessarily as the planner. The Planning Commission, and although if you look at the Plan of Conservation and Development, it's explicitly set out in the POCD that ADU regulations should be relaxed, although they're not specific as to how that what form that would take. So what I sent to you is a one-pager that just outlines in preliminary form, draft form, some areas where we start to frame some proposals. Behind the scenes, Amy has been working on this. She's canvassing some of the surrounding towns for what they've done for their ADU regulations, so that will likely be a source of additional ideas on this. Mm-hmm. And then where we want to try and head with this is, as the next step, is to get on the agenda of the zoning commission and have a discussion with them about what we're thinking and get some initial feedback before we come in with a fully baked proposal, including the legal language for the regulations. I think that would be
So who has proposed these changes, Michael?
This is my summation of the discussions with Rivercog, with Dan, and with zoning, and some initial look at what other towns have done, but he's doing a much better job.
Just a comment, there's been press reports and chatter that there are pushback coming from communities to relax planning and zoning ordinances in this area because there's a history of it being mischievous. People misuse it, and it's hard to police, and it's hard to take enforcement actions against it. So, it's the jack-in-a-box issue, which is once the jack-in-a-box pops out, you can't put it back in as easily. So the advocates, particularly for regionalizing, and housing advocates like it because they think it opens up housing opportunities, but they don't address some of the history of why zoning and planning commissions don't, or a zoning or a planning commission, depending if it's combined, don't like them. They're very skeptical, wary of it. And some communities are pushing back, and down in my part of where I work, down in the lower part of the state, there's pushback coming from communities on that. So I can understand their skepticism on why they want to go cautiously.
And I can tell you, based on the conversations here, we're unique in that we have the beach community in the R10 down there, where parking is already, you got small properties, small houses on very small lots, so there's a concern there. We probably don't want to get into the details of this right now, but just from a process point, I'd like Amy to be here too for this discussion. She's not going to be able to join us tonight.
Can I ask, are they thinking about still requiring special use applications, or how do they want to relax it? Do you have any sense of how it might want to be relaxed?
In the proposal I sent out, you can see there's a gradient there.
Yeah.
Where I think we could propose as of right, so not by special permit, through an administrative process, for some of the larger zones where it's less an issue. In the areas where it's clearly an issue, we might want to stay with it's not permissible down the R10s on the beach, or maybe if it's a completely internal ADU versus an attached or a detached extension, maybe have an opportunity to get an internal ADU by special permit. But basically, take it from just special permit in the larger zones and not permitted everywhere to have more of a relaxed gradient where it's not permitted in the areas that are the most acute issue, and then gradually open up as you get into the areas where it's not. So that's a concept, and we'll see. So the idea is to get some concepts out there, have the discussion, see what zoning thinks about those, and then evolve those into more specific language and more concrete proposals.
Correct. And it probably has some impact on sanitation issues, because if you start using buildings that were not originally intended, and sometimes it's more than you expect a person to be, there might be 3 or 4.
Right.
Then all of a sudden you start to have septic system issues, and you have other police actions or enforcement actions.
So it'll be
cost a lot of money to get a lot of, so I don't want to go down that road. It's in discussion.
But it's similar to what's happening down at the beach right now, that they've just cut over to the Connecticut water, and they're bringing truckloads of water in every week. So, that's one of the biggest problems about Old Lyme. It's correct. It's the water and sewage.
Right.
There's another aspect to this I wanted to bring up too, which is if you look back at our affordable housing plan, the areas that are of acute need in town are for seniors and for small households that may or may not be seniors,
or disabled,
which are expected to grow in the future. And the other area that's an acute need is rentals. So if you think about ADUs just as a concept, it pretty much looks like a pretty good way to make progress in that area of need. They're small rentals for 1 or 2 people. So in concept, at least, it looks like a good thing.
How do we avoid those turning into short-term rentals, though?
You can write that in. If you look at some of the...
What's that called?
Short-term rental.
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of towns have an occupancy.
Okay.
A lot of condo
Yeah.
docs I read 1-year lease minimum.
So
Okay.
enforcement can be an issue, but at least from the regulatory standpoint, there are tools to deal with that. And I was kind of surprised because in the initial conversations I had with zoning, I thought that was going to be what they would lead with, is the short-term rentals. But it's really about the beach community and the parking and just the crowding in general. So, and later on the agenda, and we're probably not going to get it, Bill's not going to be here tonight. And he's been doing some of the advanced work on community engagement. But I think we're going to want to teach why it's good. And to your point, Anthony, to get out in front of the pushback on it.
Yeah.
And incorporate this into the community engagement plan as one of our lead topics on what are ADUs, why are they good for affordable housing, why are they good for seniors, why does it fit with what the town needs now and in the future, and then have that as the it's change management 101. If you want to make a change, the first thing you do is establish the why before you go to the what.
Right. Just to let you know, what happens is those units, people always overlook, and this is my field, it's aging seniors, disabled from 18 to any age under federal law. And when you have small rentals, like 1-bedrooms, they're ideal for Section 8 tenancy. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I mean, I advocate that. But that's one of the things that people don't say because it's a fair housing violation. But that's what it can be key for that out of communities that administer Section 8 programs, not too far from this area. And people don't look at neighborhood living. When you have a Section 8 voucher, they come from anywhere in the state, and they start looking for these kinds of units, or case managers know where these accessory dwelling units are. That's why they like them, because whether you're not a family, but usually young disabled, where there's a huge population, a lot of homelessness comes into that. They need a single-bedroom dwelling, and these units are usually lower cost than multi-bedroom units and may get close to supporting Section 8 residency. And then what happens, the community says, well, that's not what we expected because we were told a different narrative. So just be careful that sometimes those are hidden arguments that people don't want to discuss. And if you're not familiar with how the development or the advocacy community uses it, they can they can do that. And I'm not against that, but your community better know that that could be one of the outcomes. You can't control that in a fair housing market. Because someone files a violation, you're just, CHRO, you can burn up $50,000, and that's without penalty. So it's got to be careful, because that's really what is in the back of some people's minds.
Yeah, and if the target price range and footprint overlaps between various potentially interested clients for it, or occupants for it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so, anyway. I'm not afraid of that argument, but I'm just saying it's going to deal with it and have a conversation so no one feels like they didn't understand the unintended consequence argument. Well, we didn't think that was going to happen. You know, that's famous. Okay, but anyway, I just want to add that to the conversation to the group.
So I had originally thought about trying to get on the September zoning commission meeting, but they didn't meet this month, so they're going to have a packed agenda. So maybe we want to take this up at our next meeting more fully and make sure Amy's going to be here, and Bill, so we can have a talk about the dovetailing of the community engagement part of it, and then target more like October. I think I don't want to lose the sense of urgency, because there's like multi-year waiting lists for senior housing right now, but on the other hand, we don't want to force it and get out over our skis and lose the opportunity to get it right the first time, or as close to right as we can the first time.
Can you remind me when zoning meets? What part of the month?
Early.
Early, yeah, so that'd be tough. You've got, too much going on. Labor Day weekend.
So Amy's going to do some more research. We have this sort of working framework to build on, and we'll evolve it from there.
Okay.
All right.
In lockstep with the community engagement part. John, anything else on that?
I'm great, thanks.
Good. Thank you. Which brings us to then community engagement. Bill's not here, so I'll propose that we defer this one until Bill can be with us.
Funding opportunities?
Community engagement.
Yes.
Bill's.
I agree.
Jen, you still out there?
Yep, I am. Sorry, I had to unmute while I'm driving. Yeah, I'm just, if I had a comment, I'll chime in. I'm just driving, so I don't want to interrupt too much.
I thought so. I just want to make sure
good so far.
you were there.
Yep.
Okay, funding opportunities. So at the center of this one, the two interesting emails that you had passed along, Anthony. Just want to take an opportunity to run through those in the potential context of additional funding for hopefully what will be a Mcculloch project that is born, and in general, because hopefully there will also be talk about development opportunities, if not tonight. At some point in the near future, we'll have more need for those funding opportunities. So.
Just a quick comment. Notice that some of the elements of this loosening up the federal repurposing of how funds can be spent has some important things we've talked about. For instance, one of the things is that it can't be more than 65% of area median income. So we had the conversation, can you go to 80 or more? And that has an effect on development costs. On the other hand, you have down payment assistance. So if you were going to sell it, you can get it, or rental assistance, down payment security deposits. So there's a lot of flexibility in here. And I'm just going to put one name, and the gentleman that's been with the housing department, state housing department the longest, is Michael Santoro.
Oh, yeah.
You know Michael. You think you've interacted with him.
I know his name.
Yeah, well, Michael Santoro was on a conference call a couple weeks ago and basically said, man, the doors are open. Whoever gets in there first, and particularly for towns that want to do affordable housing and towns that are really want to do something new and innovative, that's new to, it's like they're wide open to proposals. They're willing to do it with or without a lot of pre-design and a lot of costly upfront work. So he's the person to talk to. There's a race on for funding. The first tranche of funding, not only are these funds, but also the state's got bonding monies that they're doing. So they went through the first tranche, and there's a second tranche of money that's coming up this fall. So someone, whoever that someone is, or the building committee, someone needs to talk to Michael Santoro to start looking at the options that are available together with this, so you start piecemealing funding that's available. But certainly the rush is on in Connecticut through the governor and through the federal government, through our governor and the federal government, to do affordable housing. And they're making money available, and there's a lot of stuff sloshing around in the background. And then they want to spend it. I mean, I'm looking to grab some of the money too, but not against the line. Because I got some building projects I'm looking at too. That's what I got to do. I disclose that, not locally. for the town, I'm a housing authority director.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to do. So I've never seen it like this in my life in 25 years. It's incredible. So now's the time to move on, in my opinion.
So you're pretty well dialed into this, Anthony. How do we? Well, there's the near term. So these are the nascent opportunities, and we can try to match that up with projects we have on, hopefully have on coming to the front burner. Should we be being vigilant about these opportunities in a systematic way on this commission? And is there a way to do that other than just monitoring the publications from the state and the communications from the state and the feds?
Well, if you ask me for a suggestion, I'd say yes. And you could, for instance, do it a couple ways. There's webinars that are being done. You could have a directed review of this proposal, with someone that's knowledgeable, may or may not want to be paid, don't think they do, just to be able to have a Zoom meeting that everyone could tune into or not. And you could actually call Michael Santoro and say, Michael, we're Old Lyme, and, I'm head of the Affordable Housing Commission. We want to know, Anthony Vasilio's on there, and he says that there's monies that are available through the state. Can we put together a 30, 45-minute discussion, add people for my commission, so we can find out what's available, so we can advise and support concepts. And we have a couple of things that we're looking at now, but we want to look at the money side as well and not let opportunities pass by. So yes, I do think people need to be educated, and it can be as easy as either someone doing a guidance on this and talking about it, or having Michael Santoro talk about programs that are available in the state that might be applicable, because he'll ask you what you're looking for, and then ask him, say, well, can we share this information kind of in a 30-minute presentation with you on a Zoom meeting? You're either in or out, or like a brown bag lunch meeting or something like that. I don't know people's schedule, but yes, I do think you need to do it. I've never seen anything like this. Usually it's very restrictive, and you have to, deal with all sorts of pre-development costs, which can be $75,000 to $80,000 to put together a proposal for low-income housing tax credits, where you can spend $75,000, $80,000 or more thousand getting architects to put together and engineers to do pre-development. Sometimes those monies are valuable because they allow you to get things to a shovel-ready process, and it's hard to put money out of pocket and not know where you're going to go. Those are important funds to go seek. And I think Michael Santoro would be a good person to help guide us on something like that, where pre-development funding might be available to this proposal, particularly to a small town like us. We don't have a big infrastructure like Hartford, or even where there's, Middletown, for instance, or Milford or Glastonbury. We have housing authorities that are active and good. They do a lot of this work, but we don't have those resources in place. So you ask them what's available. And pre-development's a big deal.
How do these get announced? I know they put them up on the, on the housing website. Do they come out on CCM mailing list, or I haven't seen it come out on the Council of Small Towns? I'm on that list.
No, what happens is that I get access through two main ways. Number one is if you're active in the housing community and you're on the Board of Governors or the Housing Committee for the National Housing Association, or the state has a chapter, you get dialed into this. That's where Michael came on board, because I'm on the executive board of the Connecticut chapter, Housing Building Officials. So we get specialized presentations because they're educating us. Of course, there are people that generally have housing authorities. You don't have to. You can be a nonprofit developer. This commission could be a member and get involved. So it's very inexpensive. You could write a check, small, become a member of ConNarrow, the chapter for National Housing. It's one of the more vibrant ones, and be dialed into and ask, can I get on the housing committee? Can I get in this? Can I get on a list, informational list? And of course, it also shows that you're interested in building, and you can become a member. It's something you could do easy.
You started to say there were two ways.
Yeah, that's the first way, because the big informational things come down through the national organizations, particularly from the committees. And then the other thing is that there's a lot of other organizations. This happens to be FADA, the Public Housing Authority Directors Association, or you get dialed into to look at things differently, to other nonprofits, Partnership for Housing, and there's some others in Connecticut or national, because they're all trying to be able to flood the zone with information. And so these are great form, so these organizations outside of the housing industry, these other nonprofit organizations put out information. And then in some cases you go to conferences and they have development in 1.5 and 2-hour seminars, or they actually have a development seminar that's available. You go and you spend $75 and you spend a couple of hours with a professional on it. They want us to do stuff with it, build. But you have to have usually a PHA, a housing authority, and that's why they want to regionalize small ones. You don't need to have anyone else. It just takes some interest. Take our cheap membership up, get in the circle of information, and they flood you with emails, and there's meetings you can attend, and particularly if you get active on it. So that's how you get them, from national organizations, nonprofits, and then if you go to certain conferences that are sponsored, it's the third way. But we get information all the time, and it comes to my attention like this alert. And this is stuff, this popped out before almost anyone in the country knew it. This organization, FADA, is on top of it. They're fantastic. So they complement the National Association of Housing and Building Officials, NARO, redevelopment officials. So this is the directors looking at the world, someone like me, but anyone can be on that. And then you have the wider membership, the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials. Now, they're the two big organizations nationally. And then in the state, you have a very active state chapter, and they have monthly meetings, and they're open. And, so those state officials jump on there and want to talk to HUD or Michael Satoros, or we can pick up the phone and we call them, and they'll give us the time. And that's why I suggest you might want to contact them. Certainly use my name, I suggested it, and see if you can put together something for yourself and for the commissioners. You do it during the day. He's a very nice guy, most knowledgeable person in housing in the state. That's what I can tell you. Super guy. And no prejudice. It's not like he's going to make money on us, or it looks like he's going to operationalize something. He's just there to carry out the governor's plans. He knows what they are. He knows what the legislature's doing. And his job is to provide information to towns and communities that really want to get something going and take an interest in it. And he likes that. And there's a lot of wide open doors. That's all I can tell you. I've never seen anything like this in 25 years. It's nuts.
So it sounds like the third way to do this is to be fortunate enough to have somebody who's already dialed in as part of your commission.
Well, that's true. Well, I just share it with the group. I can share a lot of stuff.
No, and actually, if you're willing to, because you're so well connected, it's part of your day job, if you're willing and able to just continue to pass those along as they cross your desk, that'll get us started. And I think that it's a great idea to get some memberships, because that'll get us on the mailing list and get us on the.
Right. Yeah, and if you get Michael, I give you his phone number tonight before I leave. I have
got it.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have his contact.
Call him up. He's a great guy. He's very much available. I can tell you he's still working from home. He's very concerned about the pandemic, still being alive and well, although it's a shrinking group of people, but nevertheless he is. And you love him. He's just a great guy. He's the go-to guy in the state.
So what's that first association, National Housing Association?
NARO, National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials. So NAHRO, NARO. They're the oldest. They were formed in 1934, 3 years before the National Housing Act was passed by the Congress in 37. So the oldest, and then in 54, they added housing and they added redevelopment. That's why it's the Housing and Redevelopment Officials Organization. They have about 20,000 people across the country, and they represent a good chunk of all sizes of housing authorities. You can become an associate member for like $35 a year, and then what you do is you get appointed. So you say, Anthony, can I get appointed to something? So yeah, so you join ConNarrow, and we put you on a committee, and then we put you on the regional committee. You get dialed into national stuff. So it's a matter of anyone can volunteer. You don't have to be eligible. You know, it's not restrictive. It's just that people don't know they can do that. And associate memberships are very inexpensive, and they can participate in a lot of stuff that's available.
Jen, you've mentioned that group before, haven't you?
Yeah, I was a member, like when we started the committee way back in 2020. I did that 1 year free membership. Yeah, they do pass along a lot of very great information. Yep.
And FADA, which I gave you, is the Public Housing Authority Directors Association. They are comprised basically of executive directors. So they take a little different, kind of a higher level managerial approach, and they have a great executive director, a guy named Tim Kaiser in Washington. So they're on top of this thing like that. This thing flashed right out probably the same day or the day after it was announced by the Treasury Department. So they're both great. Yeah, I will tell you, if I was going to go, I'd invite you as my guest at Mohegan Sun at the end of the month. The ConNarrow's having its annual conference, and I'd invite you. I'm not going for health reasons, but the bottom line is that it's right up the road. It's an amazing 3-day thing, particularly Tuesday. I have 2 commissioners going, for instance.
So how does everyone here feel about getting a membership for the commission on that? We'll need a point person for that.
I'm already paid up, so not me, someone else. Either the chair or someone else.
Michael, I could do it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Great, John.
That's great.
Anthony, is there any way you could just email me the stuff, the info?
What do you want? I mean, what I get that comes through routinely that floods my inbox?
just one contact, or is like usually there's a contact info.
Oh,
just to
yeah,
become
I can put you in touch at the national level, state level. Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
If you're willing to take point on it, I think we could do it through the town, and
yeah, I belong to a
pay
lot
for the
of
membership, and
things
we'll just put you as the contact for it.
Yeah, it's very, very inexpensive. I mean, the national one's like $35, something like that, and ConNarrow is very inexpensive. So
I'm not worried about the money. I even pay for it. I mean, I belong to a dozen things for what I do for a living, so that's fine.
It's okay.
And,
I'm just telling you that it's not a big investment in terms of monetary, but a huge.
No, but it's good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and camaraderie and networking, because you'll hear people talk and you go, I got to talk to that person. So I'll send you the information, John. Okay.
So
I very much appreciate that.
Can you go to that Mohegan Sun thing at the end of the month?
I mean, I would have taken like someone like John or Michael as a guest, just because I've been involved for so long. But it's like $400 some for a day, $650 for the whole conference.
Ouch.
So yeah. So I'm just telling you, it's not inexpensive, but the way you get into the information circle can be very inexpensive because it's an associate membership, and then you get on mailing lists.
You know,
no, that's great.
We would have budget for that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I put in for a budget for us, so we have some money. Actually, I meant to mention this under engagement too. We still have $5,000 left on our technical assistance grant for the
Would you use that by when?
October.
Oh, wow.
So if we wanted to or some material, we have a ton of materials between the affordable housing plan we did, the website, the story map website that we had created. We have a ton of material. If we wanted to come up with a mailer, I think it would be mostly an assembly and formatting job. We have the budget. We have money from the grant to fund it.
So what would be our goal? So it would be something that we want to talk to Bill, what he thinks would be best for community engagement, and then target that.
Yep, and so the ADUs would be part of it. That's going to be a topic coming up. There's somebody in here. I don't know who they are.
Yeah. And you might want to also consider, you might be able to get a state consultant to come in and help you through some of the money sources for, a starter-up thing.
Will we ever use this for, Michael would know better, right?
Yeah, well, I don't know what the conditions are.
Maybe Jen.
And he said technical support services, which in my world means you hire a consultant to come in and help you with technical support on the application process, understanding where the money is. It can even get as far as engineers and whatever. Like I got to hire a soil engineer because I want to fill in what someone thinks is wetlands. So I got to go do an analysis. So, you know where to go to get those people. I mean, let me tell you something. The reason Connecticut's expensive to live in part, it's because it's so regulated. But that's just a public service announcement for everyone.
Our grant.
Close one around here.
Okay.
Our grant, could we use it for, Michael,
Anthony.
What were you saying?
No, I was going to say, if you have some money and you want to get serious, after Michael or whatever, to contract with a consultant who could help you put in some applications or be there to at least review and refine proposals for less money.
That's probably out of scope for this grant.
Could be, right. I don't know what it is yet.
What we did was we got a $15,000 grant last year. It was the DOH Technical Assistance Grant to create the affordable housing plan.
Oh, it was specific to that.
So there is a budget line item in there for community engagement.
Oh, community engagement.
So
Got
we use it for that.
Got it. Okay, I didn't know where it came from. Thank you, Michael. Let me make a note here.
And we have some of that money left.
Yeah, I think we should chat with Bill.
Yep.
And see what he thinks would be a great idea, and then
because if we don't use it by October, we have to give it back to the state.
And we don't want to do that. No. I mean, if we didn't have a use for it, sure, but we do.
Right, but all we have to do is get on it by October.
Right, correct.
And as I said, I don't think we have to create new content. We just have to focus it and format it. And stuff some envelopes. Okay, so back on the funding opportunities, we're take an action item. I will reach out, John, to Michelle in the Selectman's office, see if we can, while you're doing some research on what it's going to take, I'll at least see if we have a path to get a membership for the commission with you as the contact.
Sounds great.
Okay.
I'll get that out to you tomorrow, John.
And Anthony, thank you. That's
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
that was awesome.
No, and if I don't, send me an email, wake me up at my desk. But I'm sending myself a text message to remind me too. I got a lot going on, but I'll take care of it tomorrow for you.
Okay, anything else on that?
Nope.
Good. I'll just editorialize. It's nice to not be working on the plan and actually get into doing some stuff. Okay, 4.6, development opportunities. I just put this on as a standing item to see if anyone had become aware of any development opportunities. I think we still have an effort to get off the ground in terms of systematically looking at any properties that are currently owned or could be town-owned or bank-owned. as potential substrate for affordable housing development, whether it's redevelopment or conversion. But I'll just put out a call for any
Jen,
news on
did you
that.
ever come across that list?
Oh, yeah, I have the list of only town-owned properties. None of them are foreclosed.
Okay.
They're just town properties.
Any
But
opportunities in the list, or could you pass it along?
Yeah, I'll scan that out to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Good.
I checked the current foreclosures just last week, and there's nothing listed online in the court document.
Okay.
There's nothing affordable though. Okay.
Okay. So, Jan, action to send that list out, and we will continue to monitor.
Great.
Okay, which brings us to item 5, correspondence. Two things came up. So one was our former colleague George sent us a note, and I actually got a call from the EDC too. They were curious about the what that article in the Examiner meant, and what was going on with the Hatchetts Hill or the Macnick Drive.
Really?
Yeah, the Macnick Drive.
Because affordable housing was mentioned, right?
Yeah. Yep. So here's my take. So we have, I'm really cautious here because we have one Connecticut Examiner article, which is, one angle on it. What I read was that Mr. Diebold seems to be moving forward. He acquired the land adjacent to the plot that he had, and currently has that earmarked for on-site septic, having apparently not been successful in getting capacity in the East Line sewer system. Interesting that, again, this is based on one article, so it's, I'll say it here, as far as I know, there is no application in front of any regulatory body in town. So
I haven't seen anything yet, no.
Right. So we'll keep an eye on that. But I noticed that it talked about 200 bedrooms when the original plan, I think, was for 227 units, multi-bedroom. So it looks like it's scaled back. So even, again, this is just totally wild speculation, but if half of it was one bedroom, half of it was two bedroom, that would be like 140 units.
Right.
So,
Just, can I comment on one thing? Because it just, my calculator melted down when I put the numbers in there. So I said, let's see, at face value, we'll accept what the developer said. First, you're going to make a lot of
but
money.
it was reported that he said,
Reported.
I'll even abstract it one more level.
So I said, let's see, 200 bedrooms divided into $50 million, $250,000 a bedroom. I said, well, that meets line. That's $1 million 4-bedroom home. There we go. That's really affordable. You see, and quite honestly, that's the trick of the world, is that people are spending huge amounts of money because there's so much profit in these things that they do it under affordability, or in his case, 8-30G. They're making tons of cash. And who in their right mind would spend $250,000 to build a bedroom? So a 3-bedroom home is $250,000. A 4-bedroom home is $1 million. You can build a pretty good house for $1 million. I don't care whether you're in Lime or any other place. And I dare anyone, unless they're playing with, Orwellian words, to say that $1 million 4-bedroom house is affordable, or a $500,000 2-bedroom house is affordable. I mean, you think about that. And he uses bedrooms. It's sneaky. Sounds like 200 units. You almost read through it. And then you sit down. Now you understand why the cost, there's so much profit in these things, why people are pushing it, because it's always about the money, and they prey on the empathies and the support of people who think we're helping huge numbers of people find housing. And that's part of what always is distressing to me in this business. So anyway, that's a lot of money for a bedroom.
Okay, so I'm going to take a completely different approach.
Yeah.
And say that Mark Diebold's been very open and honest about his plan. He's come here before, and he would be happy to come again, as I'm sure.
I'm sure.
And on the comments that were all over Facebook, he provided his information. If anybody has any questions, please reach out to me. So he is definitely not sneaky or he's definitely above board. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to like his project. But I mean, it is what it is. It's allowed. He's not breaking the rules.
Nope.
He's not. Nope. He's the guy that bought the land. He's the guy that's been sitting on it for all of these years.
Right.
He's the guy that's been jumping through hoops since I don't know when he last came to talk to us. It was a long time ago. Yeah. I mean, he's the guy that's...
I'm not impugning his integrity. That's an integrity argument. I agree 100%. It's totally legal. It totally brings at least some units.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
In all my quarter of a century, I've never heard anyone say bedrooms. Not in my entire life. When I went through, I read it a second time because I thought units. So I'm just saying, I've never seen that language used. And when you do the math, it's not 200 units. So I'm just saying
it may be.
Well, the reason that he's the reason he's probably using the word bedrooms is because the septic design is basically usually based upon bedrooms. So what he's looking at,
I got that part. But
he acquired another 16 or 30 acres to actually put a septic on.
And I'm not pugning his integrity. I got that because I connected that.
Yeah. But
and he did the right thing by buying the extra land so he could have a place for the septic system. But when you collectively look across the state and all the language that I'm looking at, a big picture, not just this one development, it's what gets the to believe much more is being done to help very poor individuals in the community or disabled or working families than really is being done, because we're not making much headway under 8-30G under the affordability statutes. Most communities are falling back. They're falling back, not moving ahead. And that's what's worrisome in Connecticut. They're actually falling back. I could talk about Milford, where today we went from over 7% to 5%. My chairman told me that. I said, really? I mean, it's like overnight. So that's a huge drop percentage-wise in what's, quote, affordable in Milford. So I tracked the figures, and it's...
I'm trying to bring us back to our...
Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm off track. I apologize.
No, that's okay, because...
No.
We have a plan and a strategy.
Yeah, it's good.
And when we're talking about... This falls into the category of a large-scale 830G project. And what we put in our strategy was that if the project could solve for the land and can solve for the water and sewer challenges, then it fits with our strategy.
Okay.
And the other math is, let's just say that it comes up with 40-odd, just speculating, units that are 1 to 2 bedroom rentals, again on that market area that's in acute need. It would effectively increase the inventory of affordable housing stock in town by 50% in one shot.
Right.
So it's, again, I keep saying this, it's a speculation, there's nothing, but in concept, it seems like something that
I think it's a good deal.
Would be a fit with our strategy.
I'm supportive of it. I'm not knocking the project or questioning integrity. I'm just talking in a bigger picture.
But some of the things that we need to take into consideration. Now, Bill, Anthony, when you were talking about how your numbers went down in Milford, it could be because the 830G exclusion expired.
The deed restrictions expire after 30 years.
Right.
30 or 40 years.
Perhaps those are now market rate, which were originally affordable.
Yeah. Well,
so that could...
It could be what happens. 8-30G has been a failure. As a public policy, it's not resulted in what they thought it would do when it was put in place, I think, 1991. I think it was July of 90 or 91. So what happens is people keep talking about it, people keep using it. It's made a lot of people rich, but did almost nothing to move the meter forward in providing deeply subsidized housing. Middle-class housing, but not deeply subsidized.
Quite frankly, I think 830G is a failure, and there are many towns that it just doesn't make sense. We don't have access to public utilities. Right. We don't have access to sewage. We don't have access to trains or buses or any of those things. No public transportation. Right. So the person that moves to Old Lyme would be out of their element, where they don't have a car. They don't have. How are they going to buy their groceries? Yeah. So it's even when Hope was coming out, and I talked to the Women's Institute, and I looked at their plans, they They didn't have laundry facilities. And I said to her, where are they going to do the laundry? She said, what do you mean? We don't have laundromats here.
Yeah.
So that's just a completely different animal.
Yeah.
And I do believe that 830G will be repealed at some point or changed in some way to make it more realistic. But here we are today.
Right.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and it goes very strongly to what Bill, so I hope he's listening to this later some other time, that the public outcry from this was outrageous. People were losing their minds already, and it was simply an article. There's no plans, so we really are fighting an uphill battle to get this in a positive light.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we'll watch the space, but I think because of our role in the community, people are going to come to us and say, well, what do you think? So we're going to need to have some...
Yeah, you'll have to do it. And people will do the math like I did. I'm just saying you just got to be prepared to answer the argument, and I'm not against it. I think it's anyone that does this does it. I know they make money. There's a lot of money to be made, but they leave behind a 50% increase in affordable housing that meets that state definition in no line.
But they also put in, it's three steps forward with 30%, but then you get 7 market rate units. So that our big math here is that to make 10% at 30%, so if to hit 10% via a 30% 830G developments, we would have to add over 2,000 total units of housing to our current 5,000. So it would be a 40% increase. And when you saw the capacity analysis, it's just not.
Right, you add 70 and 30, you never really make it up, and never get the numbers.
Moving the goalpost.
It's like a goalpost, absolutely. See, you've got it, Michael. This is that's another.
But in any case,
but it is what it is.
Doing the small math for this. So our plan said if on a selected basis, development was able to solve for the land and the infrastructure and provide kind of housing we need, then it could fit with our as one of the elements of our strategy, along with the middle housing and the ADUs and all the other stuff we have.
Right.
But in any case, we'll watch the space.
Yeah, thank you for that indulgence. It hit a hot button for
me. I see it as our role to have those kinds of discussions here, and then come to a considered opinion that we bring to the community. That's part of our job.
Or not be blindsided by these arguments that people make, because some of these arguments are incredibly seen in the newspapers. People are uninformed and they get really hostile based on preliminary information or arguments.
Misinformation.
And misinformation, yeah.
So another one for the community engagement. Yeah. Keep coming back to that.
But I'll stop talking because you got deadlines here.
That's okay. No, we're in good shape. And then what other item correspondence was that interesting anonymous letter we got?
Very distasteful. If you're going to send something to us and
put your name on
it, out specifically one of our members, who are you?
Yeah. Yep. But I passed it along for 2 reasons. One, because it was received, and need to do that. And the other is it tells us I'll come back to community engagement.
Once again, if you want to come talk to us, come. We're happy to come. I don't know what our response would be to such a.
We're not. There is no response because it was we don't know who. We don't know who. We don't even know if it was an old-line resident. Yeah. So we have nothing to go on. So I'm not proposing that there's any response. That's more an FYI for the commission, just to say that that's out there.
Yeah, it's.
Was John copied on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And does John have any thoughts?
I have absolutely no thoughts at all. I actually wondered which one of you guys sent it to me.
But take a guess, John. Take a throw dart in the board.
I think you guys were just trying to spice up our meeting.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's other ways you could spice it up that would be totally inappropriate, but that was appropriate.
Exactly.
But I will say one thing. When I got into the businesses to clear up a disparate discrimination lawsuit with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, and I know exactly what anti-housing sentiment is in a community, how deep it runs, and how easy it is to cover it up and talk in code words. So this is baby steps, but it can come at you pretty fast, and there's a lot of people who identify with these sentiments that won't speak up. So community engagement, I think, is really important. I agree with you 100% on that, Michael, because it's a very vicious thing, and I've I found people well-educated, people that were state senators, ran for governor, that were vile in the way they attacked housing in Milford. And that's where I went to that's what got me into it. Never thought I'd be in it, but that's what got me into it, disparate discrimination.
Well, unfortunately, they were misinformed. So, a lot of the times.
Everyone learned there was a housing authority. They didn't know it was there for decades, and all of a sudden said, "We have a housing authority. What do they do?" And they're right. It took years to try to explain what we do and why we're a benefit to the community. No, we're not an alien that landed here and are spreading, body snatchers around, trying to convert people into public housing or affordable housing. But you're right. It's very, very difficult to penetrate that. A lot of time and effort goes into it to do communicate, even speaking before churches and other civic and fraternal organizations and small settings, and you have to build on that so people get educated and comfortable.
Yep,
and nothing scary about it.
Repetitionally. So let's just chalk this up as a reminder that we still have lots of work to do, and community engagement is not a thing you do and then check it off and it's done. It's something
it's a long term. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I have for correspondence. Any other business? Karen?
I have an idea.
Good.
I know, I always come up with these weird ones, so get ready. So I was thinking to myself that we keep trying to check these boxes, this 10%, this 10%, this 10%. I feel like we're doing this wrong. And I believe that there are many people in this town that are already affordably renting. They just simply are not captured because they have no desire to deed restrict their property. Wouldn't it be interesting if we did something completely outside the box and so found a way that we could identify those people and gave them some sort of a property tax perk as opposed to a deed restriction and said, hey, we don't need to check the box with the state of Connecticut. We need to do what's right for our community.
Well, actually, that is explicitly in our affordable housing plan, that we are not going to check the boxes and that we're going to recognize the natural affordable. So, but what you said is, if there's incentives that can be given to promote naturally affordable.
Right. There are some innovative things. Remember, half the communities did submit affordable housing plans, 46, 47%.
Correct.
It's now a little bit over that. And a couple of those plans were very innovative. There's no restrictions. You can do whatever you want locally. And there's already some blueprints out there, and people like Michael Santoro, others would probably know where they are without having to read them all.
So I mean, like we said, there was many people that came against the whole project that were in the middle school saying, well, wait, I am already affordably renting my property. Does that mean nothing to you? And it did, because it wasn't deed restricted. And so what do we care if it's deed restricted? We can keep our own numbers, and we can say, look, this is what we're doing in our own town. Yay, us.
Right, and so it's about, and actually it's out there explicitly in our plan, is that we're not going to be driven to the numbers. We're going to be driven by getting the people in housing they afford. The challenge with what you just said, and I agree, there's this naturally affordable housing out there, and it's not an insignificant part of our housing stock. What was the percentage of homes that are valued under $200,000? I think it's almost 10%. So there's probably 500 of them out there.
But I mean, let's just say, for example,
the challenge though is it's not just the unit. You have to get somebody in there who needs it, and not just somebody who's just getting a good deal.
Correct. I believe that there are.
It's finding the housing, though, right?
But it's identifying it. I think.
Identifying it.
It's likely already happening.
And matching the unit, the affordable unit, with someone who's at an income level that needs it. And not somebody who's of means that's just getting a good deal.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And I'll tell you what's going to really scare a lot of investors or nonprofit developers are caps, which is becoming a serious issue in Connecticut. The governor's actually looking at some communities out in California and the Northwest for models where they will cap rents statewide.
Once again, we don't have to follow those rules because we can.
Well, if the state passes a law, you will. The landlord communities are crazy because it affects investment decisions because people with money will flow where it wants to go, And a lot of people will take money someplace else where they can build, make money, and do it easier than Connecticut. So it does have a chilling effect on and I know the landlord community is already going crazy about those kinds of conversations. Because I can understand it affect your financing, your layered subsidies.
How many months did they not get income because of COVID?
No, that was another hot one too. Yeah, I was immersed in that.
But I think you're right on, Karen. The deed restriction is a big barrier. I'll cite what went on in Lyme when they were trying to promote.
Yeah.
They were trying to promote ADUs up there, and the deed restriction was a real barrier for them.
Yeah. And that's not the only way you can.
And it's like on the ownership side, to me, it sounds like trying to promote CHFA mortgages. So you have an affordable owner-occupied home, and you want to get somebody in there that gets a CHFA mortgage, so you know you get a qualified person in a qualified unit, and then the match is made, and you've actually made progress to get people into homes they can afford. Mm-hmm. The challenge on I don't know how you do that on the rental side, but I think that's the key. So we have these affordable rentals out there. Mm-hmm. As they turn over, how do we make the match and get somebody into that affordable rental that's at 65% AMI?
I don't think we can mandate that, certainly, but I think, but I think it might be happening on its own.
Do the promotion and get the match made and open the path to it.
Let's be realistic, though. So as a homeowner, what's the benefit? Somewhere there's got to be a perk along that. So, for example, when you look at new development, so you can avoid some of the zoning restrictions because you're 30% that's affordable. So why is it advantageous to a homeowner to do this, other than from the goodness of their heart? But if there's a tax break, or if there's something that they're willing to do that.
You mean to lower their rent or to keep it within?
To give them some, all right, look, if you're going to rent your 3-bedroom home for $2,000 a month as opposed to $3,000 a month, what will the town do for you to help,
To incentivize that.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's...
I agree 100%, just to put it in my words, but the question comes down to, what is the community going to do, the town, the legal jurisdiction, going to do to support affordable housing or reduced housing costs? Mm-hmm. My argument is, if we set up, not we here, but if we set up a housing authority in Milford, we got concessions. In the old days, you had to sign a contributions contract saying they're going to do stuff, sand your roads, fix your roads, not charge you taxes, whatever. Nowadays, when you do affordable housing, 8-30G, the city has no buy-in. They don't want to buy in. They want the tax dollars, full 100% value, and then say we got affordable housing. So the question would be, what's the city kicking in? Where's your belief system? Should someone get a 20% reduction in their property taxes if they can conform and certify that the rents are reduced because they have reduced operating costs for the house?
And that they will rent it to someone who needs it.
Correct. And that's easy to do because you can set up the guidelines like we do in housing or Section 8 or anything else. I mean, this is all formulas. You know exactly what you can do. And you rent to someone who meets those guidelines and you certify it, and we're done.
Right.
So, but again, what's the community kicking in? They don't want to kick in. They do the reverse in New Haven. They get rid of housing, build multifamily housing, so they can get tax revenues. They're hungry for money in the inner cities, so they do the reverse. They don't give benefits. They just want taxes.
Well, if the town supports this.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way it would have to, just in that one example, that being a tax abatement, then that essentially translates into the other taxpayer subsidizing it. So we'd have to sell that.
Yeah. As
a good thing for the community and worth the investment the same way that given money to the libraries with them.
And I think some communities did do some innovative stuff, plans. So it's not like you got to invent it. You just have to go find out what was done. And Michael Santoro, someone can tell you. It's a question to ask him, or I can ask him. Say, what innovative plans are you? You can get them. It's a public document. And look at them. I mean, it's not like it's top secret stuff. You just got to go know where they are, because half the town submitted them.
Areas, maybe some regulatory relief.
Yeah, regulatory relief, reduced building fees.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't have to always be taxes. It could be reduced fees or fast tracking building permits, so you can take advantage of the market conditions today and not stretch out 2 or 3 years.
Maybe some relief for density or setbacks and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's
regulatory is hard to.
there's quids.
Yeah, so it doesn't always have to be money. You know, it could be other things. That could be.
I'm just thinking that there could be rentals that in town that people would be willing to, say, take an elderly couple
Mm-hmm.
and bring them reduced rate.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So in broad strokes, this is actually on our follow-up list for the affordable housing plan under incentives. You want to develop that thing, Mike?
I'll give it some thought. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe if we could do some diligence and find out what other towns are doing. Again, if Michael's
I'll do another action. I'll call Michael myself. I think you should talk to him, but I'll see if he's, who's sifting through this stuff and who's considered some innovative programs where local resources were added as a suggestion to promote affordable housing
People in
development.
Lyme are kind and generous, and they want to help people in Lyme. I believe that.
Yeah.
And if you combine that with the notion that a lot of wheels have been invented out there, we just have to find them.
Exactly. You have to reinvent the wheel, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Jen.
Oh, hey, just a thought, and I think I've said this before, but, just out of the small number of people that I know that have lived in Old Lyme for a long time, I know 3 of them actually have what would be considered an ADU, whether it's legal or not, I don't know. But one of them, for instance, has been renting to the same person for 23 years, and she actually died in the house. And that was mostly because it's just extra cash and it's unreported income for them. So there has to be an incentive that outweighs the fact that they're not reporting this income as well, as well as getting over on the zoning aspect.
There's always.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe they could get some sort of a tax break, Jen, if there is a spread, say, from market rate to what the current rate is. So somewhere in there is a good perk.
And some of the tools to help make the match with the right tenant and qualify them. Oh, that's good. So if there's some energy behind this, so let's perk that incentives discussion up, and I'll make sure that's on the next agenda.
I think the discussion's great. A lot of times it's not our opinions, it's to be somewhat provocative to like, what are these ideas? Let's see if we can find something that might work or not work. So, it's got to explore.
Good one. Okay, other business?
We just did it.
Other business.
I got nothing else.
Okay.
I'm good.
Jen, you good?
Next meeting is?
Yep.
September 21st, I believe.
Yes. I know.
Yeah, huh?
That's unbelievable. Oh.
First day of fall or something, September 20th.
It is. It's the...
Is it really? Yeah, first. Oh. It gets dark. I don't like it.
So I think we're going to have a very similar agenda with incentives bubbled up on it.
We lose our $5,000 October.
Yeah, I think it's October 31st, not October 1st, but I'll check that, and if we need to, we'll call a special meeting or at least rally the troops to get something together for a mailer. So I was, the agenda is going to be very similar to this one, updates on all of this. We're going to have more we'll have another lap around the Mcculloch track. We won't have regional housing plan that we've done at that point. ADUs we'll revisit with Amy here. Community engagement definitely Bill here. And we'll put incentives up. Good. And if anything comes up between now and then, of course, we'll roll that in.
Good.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Winters. Do I have a second?
We're alternate.
Yeah, we're all.
Someone on the phone will second this, yes?
Second.
I thought, John, you wanted to keep the meeting going.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No, aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good. Okay.
Great.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks so much. Bye.
Guys, you too. Bye.
Good for August, when everybody else is like